Savtah Racayah, back to bring some more information on keeping our babies safe. I pray that everyone is having a great week. I pray that things are going well for you. But in reality, we know sometimes things are not going great for people. So I just pray that things will make a turn and get better for you. So today we're going to talk about disclosure. Some of the things that you should and should not do if and when a child comes forth to disclose that something has happened, okay? How we respond as the adults is important. It's so critical because that child may only find the courage that one time to come forth and say something. So that's what we're going to talk about today, okay? So I have some slides and let's get into it. But before we get into today's presentation, I just have to ask, how did you all like my new intro music? As nice, wasn't it? That was made by my 9-year-old grandson, Miahdah. So we're going to be switching it up and using his little beats. You know, my grandsons love to make music. So, you know, this is made by a 9-year-old. It's nice, isn't it? Okay, y'all, let's get into it. Okay, looks like I sort of erased something, so I have to start over with the do's and the don'ts. Okay, so the first thing that we had on here was do not panic or express anger or shock. The reality is that if a child or when a child comes and expresses that there's some sort of trauma, there's something going on, you know, my platform is mostly molestation and sexual abuse, but because I had to deal with a situation tonight that was emotional and verbal and psychological abuse. When children finally get the courage to come and tell you, it's going to be a range of emotions. Now, for me, my emotion most of the time at this point is go to from a 0 to 100 of being extremely angry, which is not healthy, you know, especially at my age. It's not healthy, but it's also not good for the child. So whatever set of emotions that you're going through, we're human beings. We are going to be emotional. We're going to feel a certain kind of way about whatever. If it's angry, if you were so mad that you want to kill somebody, if you're confused, if you're shocked, betrayed, scared, sad, sometimes you're stuck and you just don't even know what to do. You're just in shock, you know. But we have to take control of our emotions. You know, we have to make sure that the child feels confident that we are going to take care of the situation. And they may not always feel comfortable. They may be apprehensive or afraid of how we're going to take care of it. I'm not talking about killing nobody, okay? I'm not talking about going and beating up nobody, but whatever, although some people may do that, but I digress. And that's the emotions of tonight's situation that are speaking through. But I'm a Savtah. I always say I'm not a professional. I'm not unbiased. I'm not a social worker or a psychologist. I'm not dealing with some situation that does not impact me, that has not impacted me. And that is why I do what I do, because of the fact that I did not know what I needed to know to take care of my children in the first place. And I cannot afford to sit around and not say something to try to help other people. Again, I digress. Okay, so let me get back to stay on topic. It talks on here about not threatening to kill an offender. And many times when we do make those kind of threats in the presence of our children, just on a regular basis, offenders a lot of times will use that against the child and say, you know, your Abba's going to end up going to jail, you know, so you don't need to tell. You know, and the child is feeling like they don't want their parent, something to happen to their parent, so they won't speak up, they won't say anything, you know, and they sit and they suffer in silence. Okay, so let's, for one of the don'ts, do not, so what we have to do is we have to get our emotions in check. Okay, so the next thing on here, we talk about not accusing the child, and we do accuse the victims. And you know what, even though my main concern and platform is always talking about children, the reality is that we do this with adults as well when they come forth, you know, if it happened as an adult even. But when you say things like, you know, why didn't you tell me before now? And these are things that I've actually heard that parents have said to their children. How could you let this happen without saying anything? You know, I told you about, you know, whatever, not letting anybody touch you, wearing certain clothes. I told you. We blame. We accuse the child, we blame the child, and we make them guilty and responsible for something that somebody else did, you know. And when they're younger children, we know it's not their fault, you know. Even when they're older, it is not the victim's fault. And we have to stop victim blaming and victim shaming. And that's something else we will talk about in the next lesson as well, you know. Blaming the individual for what happened is one of the worst things that we can do. So we have to be conscious of that. Are we clear? Everybody clear on that? Okay, let's move on. Do not ask a bunch of questions. So don't ask them to show you what happened. Don't ask them to reenact it. That might be a bit much for somebody, you know, when they're going through whatever emotions and making them relive that all over again. That's not something that you want to do. One, you don't want to put them in that situation and make them have to relive it. And two, especially if you're going to deal with it legally with legal matters, it could negatively impact. And I think that's going to come up again later, okay? If the child is going to talk to you, let them talk to you in the way that they feel comfortable talking to you. Listen, be supportive. Don't put words in their mouths and ask leading questions like, so did he touch your, you know, this, or did he do this? Or don't put words in their mouths. Again, if it comes up to you wanting to take the matter somewhere to be addressed to you, it could negatively impact what it is that you're trying to do. Okay, so here we have the ask minimal questions for 2 reasons. If you plan on having the matter investigated by established authorities, such as the police here in Israel, Beit Din, social workers, etc., questioning the child could negatively affect the investigation, as authorities may feel that the child has been coached. Okay, and this has happened, not necessarily here in Israel, but in my research with plenty of cases, and the system doesn't work for the child. It ends up working against them. And number 2, you do not want to traumatize the child by making them continue to talk about it. If they want to talk, listen, you know. Be supportive. Let them know that you're there for them, okay? And do not discuss the situation with other people in front of the child, okay? You don't want to do that. You don't want to always be talking about it and the child is in earshot and hearing it. It can cause a whole range of feelings that they may have. Do not destroy possible evidence, such as clothing or bedding or anything where there could be some DNA evidence. Don't destroy those things, and make sure, especially if you know, even if you're not sure if you want to process it initially, don't destroy those. Do not ever say any version of any of these things that are listed down below. You're going to just have to let that go. I've heard that. You got to rise above it. I've heard that. Why can't you just move on? I've heard that. Stop tripping. You ain't the only one it happened to. I've heard that. Well, during slavery, I've heard that. You got to learn how to forgive. You know, forgiveness is for you. I truly understand, especially if you haven't experienced it and if you don't understand. You know, this forgiveness thing, I think I've mentioned it before. It took me years to get to a point of forgiveness. And forgiveness is definitely for those of us that have to do the forgiving. But forgiveness does not mean that we accept that individual back into our lives. Forgiveness does not mean that we let them off the hook, that we can't prosecute them if that's what we decide we want to do, if we don't want to have anything to do with them. Forgiveness is for us, but everybody gets to forgiveness when they get to it. We try to encourage, we try to be there, we try to be supportive, but don't try to force anybody into anything, and don't try to make them feel bad about how they feel, okay? If you must say something that is supportive, that shows empathy to the situation and supports the healing process. And we will go over healing in another discussion, not necessarily today, okay? You can say things like, I'm sorry you had to experience that. I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm here for you. I believe you. You know, just having somebody in your corner makes a world of difference. Sometimes it can be the difference between life and death. It can be the difference between somebody actually taking their life, you know, or somebody turning to drugs or turning to alcohol to try to deal with their pain. Just having somebody there for them. So you all, that is very important. Now, let's do the things that you should do. when we're dealing with the child, definitely remove your child from the offender's access, okay? And this can be difficult if it's a situation in your home, you know, and you're living with the offender, you may not have anywhere else to go, financial situation, there's so many things that could impact that, but the reality is that you have to find a way to get that child, especially that child, away from the person that's doing the offending, okay? And I can't give you an ABC 1, 2, 3 how to do that, because it's going to depend on your situation, but that's key that happens. You know, again, get yourself together. If the child sees that you're upset, knows that you're angry, make sure that they understand that you're not angry with them, that, you know, and you don't feel, you're not blaming them, you don't feel that they're guilty, that you are angry that this situation happened, you know. If you have to vent, don't vent in front of the child. Find somebody else that you can vent with, you know, okay? You want to reassure the child, okay? Understand and appreciate that most victims don't tell, okay? Statistically, most people do not tell until they're much older. So if someone does find the courage, especially a child, if they find the courage to come forth, be there, be supportive, okay? Make sure that they understand that what happened was not his or her fault. Many times, offenders will make the individual feel like it is their fault, you know, and make them feel guilty about what happened. Let them know that you're proud of them for telling you, and you know that it took a lot of courage, okay? Let them know that you believe them and that you're there for them, okay? Can't say this, emphasize this enough. If you have to talk to the child or you know, if you have to talk about it, make sure you find a private place to do so. You don't want to do it in the company of other people. Find somewhere private, sit down. It doesn't have to necessarily just be in the house. You might go out somewhere that's comforting and peaceful to sit down and talk, or allow them to talk, okay? Again, don't pressure them into talking about any details that they're not ready to talk about, and let them tell you what happened in their own words, okay? Also, you have to report the abuse. Way too often we don't want to report what happened, but you have to report it somewhere, okay? And this statistic here says that 60% of reports happened as children. 84% of cases are not prosecuted for lack of evidence. Now that is definitely here in Israel. 84% of cases are not prosecuted due to a lack of evidence, okay? And so you make sure that you get the evidence that's needed, and you deal with it as soon as you possibly can. In Israel, there is a statute of limitations, as in most states in the U.S., that vary. I think here it's like up to the age of 27 or up to X amount of years after it happened. So you do want to go ahead and address those situations as soon as possible, even though they may not be able to be prosecuted. If you want to press charges, you know, criminal charges, you can always still go to Maslan, and I have the Maslan hotline number here, okay? And they can still help you. Sometimes they can help you even to get it either prosecuted with as a criminal charge or either civil. They can help you with counseling and therapy. There are things that are available. So Beit Lin is for children 13 and under. You see the numbers are here for them as well. With the police, if you're going to make a report to the police, especially my experience with dealing with police here in the Negev, specifically here in Dimona, they sometimes do try to play you off. They don't take it seriously for whatever reasons. I don't know why, but I found in our situation with my son, when we went to the police twice, they tried to play us off. They did play us off. But once we contacted Maslan and we went in there with a representative, man, that woman kicked that door wide open and they acted like they had some sense, okay? So you want to get some help if you can, if necessary. If you're successful in getting what you need from them, then fine. But if you need that help, you know, get that backup and that support, all right? So in closing, as always, I pray that the information that has been shared is useful, helpful, that it will cause you to have another type of understanding in dealing with a situation like this if you are confronted with one. and also in disclosure, as not only as an individual, as a parent, does that child, does the child or the individual that has filed a complaint or that has disclosed that something has happened, not only do they need your support as a family, community, they need all of our support. As a community, we have to be supportive. You know, a sister shared with me the other day how, you know, she was talking with someone, and this individual was in a leadership position, and he was saying how, you know, oh, that brother's a good brother, he's a good man. And the sister said, how can you say he's a good man when he molested, you know, some of the daughters in the community? And you know what this man had nerve to say to her? He said, well, are you sure? Are you sure? The individual in question has molested at least 6 young daughters that I know of personally, and I have talked to just about all of them, face to face, one-on-one, where they have told me about what happened. And this dude had nerve to say, well, are you sure? You know, that's the kind of stuff that that causes people to not want to come forth and not want to say anything when they are questioned. You know, as a community, we have to provide the support, and we cannot always be taking the side of the individual that has committed the offense and protecting and guarding them because, well, you know, we have to be sure. Like everybody is just lying. Come on, y'all. Time out for that. So, again, in closing, I hope that the information has been useful. I pray that no one ever finds themselves in this situation, but unfortunately, sometimes we do. As always, I am here to offer whatever help, whatever support that I can. In the meantime, take care, be blessed, be safe, have a fantastic week. See y'all next week. Savtah Racayah signing off.